Alright guys, you've probably heard the news that Elon Musk has bought a huge share in Twitter. He now owns 9.2%. He spent 2.9 billion US dollars, and that was the equivalent of 73.5 million shares. So what's this gonna mean for the future of Twitter? Elon Musk has been complaining about various aspects of Twitter over the last number of months and even the last couple of years. So in this video, I'm going to look at 3 possible scenarios. Now, there may be more scenarios than this, and if you can come up with more scenarios, please let me know in the comments. So before I look at the scenarios, I'm going to give you some important facts about the situation as it stands right now. Musk said that he was giving serious thought to creating a new social media platform. So he was thinking about setting up something brand new himself, and it's possible he may still do this, and that's part of the possible scenarios. Also, it could be a case that he could try and take over the whole company. And this analyst said Musk's intent is unclear. So this is very true here. Nobody's quite sure what his intent is. Musk might not even know himself what his intent is. But what we do know already is that Twitter announced that it has appointed Elon Musk to its board of directors, though he cannot own more than 14.9% of the company. So I don't know what the legal situation is with this. Was this part of a deal where he would agree to only own this much of the company maximum to get on the board of directors? And what happens if he wants to take over the whole company? Can he bypass this 14.9% agreement? Also, this article mentions that it's a passive stake in Twitter. So in this paragraph, it explains that shareholders who intend to remain passive, in other words, those who don't seek to influence or change control of a company, file a shorter form with the US Securities and Exchange Commission, called a 13G. Those angling for board seats or seismic shakeups typically file a longer and more in-depth form, a 13D, within 10 days of buying their stake. So Musk filled out the shorter one, the 13G, saying that he's not trying to influence Twitter, but he's already been appointed to the board. So effectively, he didn't really need to fill out the longer form, I guess, because he's going to be on the board now. And here is a list on Twitter of their board of directors, and it hasn't been updated yet. You can see here that it's got all these names, but Elon Musk's name is not on the list yet. Now, it does include Parag Agrawal, the new Twitter CEO, and the former CEO Jack Dorsey and co-founder. So it's important to know that these 2 guys are on the board, and a whole bunch of other people. Brett Taylor is the board chair. He's the co-CEO of Salesforce, another company. So let's look at the 3 scenarios, beginning with number 1. Elon Musk has no influence. So some people will think this is very highly unlikely. Elon Musk is the world's richest man and he now owns 9.2% of Twitter. It's likely he will have some influence, but it is entirely possible that the Twitter board of directors, the employees, the CEO will tell him to go take a hike, and they will continue their ways of censoring people, banning people, not introducing new features that will improve the website. In which case Elon, he's probably going to get really annoyed by this and frustrated, and he could just dump all these shares and take a profit out of it and use that money to set up a new platform like he said he was thinking about doing. He's up against ideologues, he's up against these liberals, he's up against people who ban people for saying there's only 2 genders, for just stating scientific facts. And Elon Musk is going to have to break the bubble, the liberal bubble, the Silicon Valley liberal bubble, if he is to get what he wants, because he's a free speech absolutist. This is what he said, and he also wants new features that have nothing to do with free speech per se, but he's up against this huge wall of liberalism. The new Twitter CEO says he's all about harm and less about free speech and the First Amendment. So we could see a huge clash here between Elon and Parag Agrawal, the new Twitter CEO. Elon, as influential as he is, may not get his own way. He's not the CEO. Agrawal is the CEO. Agrawal gets to make the decisions, but the board can try and influence him. And Elon being on the board now, we're going to see what happens. So scenario 1, Musk ends up having no influence and he just says, screw it, I'm dumping my shares and I'm going to go back to my previous idea of setting up a new platform myself. So let's look at scenario 2, and this is Elon Musk has huge influence. So this is what a lot of people are hoping for. They're hoping for huge changes at Twitter, and this is what Elon Musk has said himself. He wants to influence the board, he wants to influence the company, and he wants to see massive improvements and changes. So here is his Twitter account, and he had a poll back in March. Twitter algorithm should be open source, yes or no? So 82% say yes, 17 no. A huge majority of Twitter users saying that the Twitter algorithm should be open source. So in other words, there's nothing to hide. The algorithm is there for everybody to see, and people can go in and change the algorithm. No hidden agendas here. It's all out in the open, and we can see it for ourselves what the algorithm is. So I think Elon is alluding here to the fact that behind the scenes in Twitter, people are manipulating the algorithm to promote certain people that they want to promote. And just for a really good example here, Twitter is trying to push Biden onto me. Look, people you might like, President Biden and BBC here. Why are they trying to push the BBC and Biden onto me? Now, my Twitter account is very new. I haven't used it much. And this is kind of like default Twitter accounts that they're telling you to follow. So why are they choosing Biden and BBC? So we can see by default, the liberal hive mind of Twitter, they're recommending, President Biden, a Democrat. And I remember before I set up like a burner Twitter account before, it was recommending Hillary Clinton and all these other Democrats, Obama, and they never recommended Trump when Trump was president. So that just shows you how Twitter works, and the algorithm is so left-leaning and so heavily in favor of liberal policies and the Democrats in America. That's his first thing. He wants the algorithm to be open source. So that would be a massive change to Twitter. And here he was before he bought the shares. Given that Twitter serves as the de facto public town square, failing to adhere to free speech principles fundamentally undermines democracy. What should be done? And then he has a poll here, and we can see the poll. Free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? And a vast majority, over 70%, says no. And he says here, the consequences of this poll will be important. Please vote carefully. So now we're seeing the result of this poll. Elon Musk has bought 9.2% of Twitter. So he's trying to influence Twitter, and he's going down the free speech road here. Free speech is essential. He called himself a free speech absolutist. So he's going to try and influence free speech, and in other words, try and get Twitter not to ban so many people, especially people on the right, conservatives. And, President Trump got banned and a whole bunch of conservatives got banned. So we're going to see if Elon can influence Twitter in that regard. And here's another poll he put up. Now, this was after he bought 9.2% of Twitter. Do you want an edit button? YSE and ON for no. So he deliberately spelled these wrong. So he's looking for an edit button so that people can correct typos and so on. And 73% want an edit button. So again, a big majority want an edit button like Elon does. And so this is an example of just improving, the functionality of the platform, and is nothing to do with free speech as such. So he's trying to influence not just free speech, but just how the website functions. So if Elon can make huge progress in this, if he can make the algorithm open source, that would be absolutely massive, because then Twitter won't be able to manipulate the algorithm to the liberal mindset. And then you got things like edit buttons and so on. I think those might be less important. I think free speech is really the big one. And if Elon Musk can influence the company so much that you're going to see conservatives not being banned anymore, and you might even see some banned people coming back to the platform, then that would be a huge win for Elon Musk and the free speech advocates. Okay, so let's move on to scenario 3, and that is Elon Musk has a small influence. And this to me would be the worst possible outcome. This would be where Elon Musk gets his way on certain small issues, and this may be enough for him to say to the public, hey, look, I got this done, I got that done, but he may not be able to get the really big things done, especially on free speech. So to me, this would be the worst scenario, where Elon Musk kind of caves slightly to Twitter and tries to make it look like he's having a huge influence when the really, really important issues are not being resolved. Now, let's look at this article. The Babylon Bee CEO, Twitter's Bee lockout may have been the last straw for Elon Musk. The Babylon Bee was suspended for writing an article about Rachel Levine, saying Rachel Levine was the man of the year, which of course is technically misgendering a transgender person. And this is considered hate speech by Twitter. And so they were locked out of their account. Now, they weren't permanently suspended or anything, but in order to get back in, they have to delete that tweet, and they're refusing to do it. Now, Elon Musk is a huge fan of the Babylon Bee, and this may have been the final straw for him. So I think this might be an example of Elon maybe getting his way. Twitter might cave to him wanting the Babylon Bee reinstated without having to delete that tweet. But when it comes to reinstating people like Trump and other conservative people and other controversial people, it isn't just conservatives. They banned Meghan Murphy for saying that men aren't women. Meghan Murphy, she's a feminist, left-wing, and they banned her as well. So it's not entirely conservatives, but probably the majority are conservative who are getting banned. And maybe Elon can get certain people back, but not everyone. Like Trump is not coming back. According to Twitter, they're saying he's not coming back, period. Because Trump keeps saying that the 2020 election was rigged, and according to Twitter, this is dangerous misinformation, and they're gonna ban anyone saying this. So to sum up, in my opinion, either scenario 1 or scenario 2 would be good. Either Twitter gets radically reformed and becomes a real free speech platform where these liberal CEOs and executives are forced to allow different points of view that they don't agree with. And scenario 1, I think that would be good as well, where Elon Musk decides Twitter is beyond repair and I'm just going to set up a brand new platform, and he can use that to attract everybody, like media, conservatives, liberals, because there's a lot of alternatives out there that are really just places for conservatives to flock to. I think what we need is a platform that has everybody, and Twitter used to be like that until they started banning conservatives, and now it's these hive mind agendas are the only ones allowed. As far as I'm concerned, scenario 1 or 2 would be good outcomes, but the worst scenario would be 3, where Elon is kind of getting cucked and doesn't even realize it. They will massage his ego. They will say, okay, Elon, we'll let you have the edit button and we'll unlock the Babylon Bee for you, and then that'll be it. Maybe 1 or 2 other little things here and there. And then Elon comes out and says, oh, here you go, guys. Look, I've saved the Babylon Bee. They're back in Twitter. But that won't be nowhere near good enough for a lot of people like myself, where I want to see either radical reform of Twitter or Twitter burnt to the ground. Okay, guys, so let me know what you think in the comments. If you can think of other scenarios, let me know what those are. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video. Until next time, see you guys later.